Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody back to another episode and edition of our monthly talks about self-defense and how to stay safe. And Matt's not joining us tonight, but I have Dr. Shelby here. We're going to talk about clinic safety and how to, and home safety for different setups for how people work from their houses or homes, and also just basic clinic safety for self-defense and just, to be vigilant in what we're doing and stay safe because unfortunately in the world, there's things that happen we don't always expect, and sometimes we're a little naive on the thought of somebody doing something to us, and it happens when we're not thinking or watching what's going on. So we're gonna dive into it a little bit. So welcome, Dr. Shelby.
Thank you. I'm super grateful to be here. I love what you're promoting, and I think it's so important. This topic of really empowering yourself, mind and body physically, and all of that, because you just don't know what can happen.
No,
So
and
yeah,
and the world's changing by the day right now.
it
So we want
is.
to make sure that we want to be safe in where we live and where we work. We want to always be safe. So putting some safeguards in place for that to make sure that we feel better is always a good thing. So I know that you've done your clinic from your home as well,
Yeah.
and we talked a little bit about how to stay safe in those clinics and zones. So maybe if you can tell me a little bit how your setup worked, and then we can kind of dive into it from there.
Yeah, totally. So I'm a neurostructural chiropractor. I had a home clinic, and essentially I had a walk-in specifically designed for people to walk in through my garage and then go into the basement. And the whole basement was specifically for the clinic. And it had one private consult room, a bathroom, a main area, and then a storage room. And I had a security camera outside so I could see people coming in and out. Yeah, what else do you want to know for setup?
That's actually pretty good. That gives me an
Yeah.
idea, kind of where to go from. And I guess the first question to ask in that was it just one entry and one exit, or was there a separate exit?
So there was another, like if you walk upstairs to the basement, there was another door that technically I could get into, but I had it locked, and that was into my personal section. So I
Oh,
always
okay.
had like my front door locked, and everything personal was separate and locked. However, like an emergency situation, I would be able to fumble with my keys to try and like unlock the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was essentially like one in, one out kind of thing,
Yeah.
which is pretty normal. I think most places don't have a secondary exit. So it'd
Yeah.
be, as far as like the room setup and stuff goes, you'd want to be positioned so you're always closer to the exit. I mean,
Right.
once you get to know the client, obviously that would be easier.
Yeah.
And for clients and coming to your house and stuff, did you do any work to see,
Training.
to see about anything about them? Or like, how did you work that when people were coming in?
Most
A lot of
people
times,
were, yeah, what were you gonna say?
I say a lot of time people would just call you from refer or whichever to come see you, correct?
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
very
So
common.
I was fortunate because I thought about that too. I was like, do I want strangers coming in my home? And I know I've set this specifically aside for a clinic, but you know, anyone can come in. And so most clients were referral, and when before booking new patients in, we'd have a phone, or the reception would have a phone conversation, ask them questions. I didn't have anyone necessarily that was dodgy. However, there was someone, a neighbor, in fact, actually, who came in unannounced and by appointment only. And he was an interesting character, safe in the sense, but certainly I didn't necessarily feel comfortable being in the clinic by myself with him, or enjoyed it by any means. So I did have an instance where, someone literally could just walk in, right?
Right.
Um,
So
yeah,
was he a client then, or just
he wasn't.
he wasn't? Okay.
He walked in. So typically, if you want to schedule an appointment with me, you have to schedule and book an appointment first. I don't take walk-ins. And he just literally opened the door, walked in the clinic, came down the stairs, and was like, I would like an appointment. And I'm like, uh, okay, hold on. And at the time, I was seeing clients, and I was actually near the end of the day. So he I said, just have a seat here and I'll be wrapping up shortly so we can have a conversation to see what it is you're looking for. But yeah, I mean, like literally anyone could have came in during those office hours when I did unlock the doors.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then did you have security cameras anywhere? I mean, probably not in the clinic room itself, but
Not in the clinic
possibly
room.
outside on the way in.
Yeah, outside. However, like when I'm one-on-one with a client, I'm not like looking at the camera and someone could easily just like walk in the clinic, right? And
Right.
yeah, so
So I guess that's one good thing is that you have, for the most part, booked a client, so you know who's coming for the day. You had a good idea of who was coming in. You could control that just by access alone for the number of people coming in. If a random person walks in, which is a little more random for a home setting,
yes.
just to do that. I mean, that is definitely a little weird because most times people are very good and they'll set up and you probably very clear up front that it's a home clinic. They're
Yeah.
not going to like a mall or something like that, so they know ahead of time, and most people are very good with that. But there's also people out there that prey on that kind of stuff to figure out how to get inside and kind of work that way as well. So you can't profile clients, but you can definitely go by a gut feeling and your intuition, and you know that when you meet somebody, you get that sense,
I did.
and yeah, and 9 times out of 10, that intuition or sense is 100% correct, and too
Yeah.
many people ignore it. So when you feel that, it's like, okay, so now you need to make some adjustments to either put yourself in a position where you're closer to an exit, right? So that you can't be trapped in that room. And sometimes if you have to talk your way around so you're moving in the room, then you can kind of work that way from there as well, because you don't want to be trapped. And we talk about this with real estate agents as well when they're showing houses, as to how they enter rooms and how they exit, as do our clients or stuff like that. And they have preset things. So, and I'm sure you can do this as well, but with your phone you can preset the emergency numbers into it. So police or 911, and you can normally just hit a button. If you were in danger, they could be there as quick as possible. And I love our police forces and they're amazing, but a lot of times they're busy and they're not there when we need them.
Yeah.
So we need to, you have to create that buffer zone of kind of getting to that free space if something were to happen. Right. And I think the other thing too is, positioning where you are in the room. I mean, it changes what's the person and you've known them a few times. I'm sure you get a much more of an ease of a feeling. But usually at that initial meeting of somebody, if you have that feeling already, odds are it is correct. And
I did.
Need to have them move on from there, or that's where you need to talk very well and go, you're closed for the day, you're finishing up. I cannot take in our clients today, but we can do a phone conversation, see about going further, and see how they exit at that point.
Yeah.
It's always a little bit of a, when you do home clinic and things like that for anybody, it can happen. People come in when you're alone. Like, it's no different than in my business. If I'm here and if somebody comes in, there's nobody here. It's the same kind of idea. I think that it probably wouldn't happen here, but I've had some people come in that, definitely they raise my, if I had hair, they'd raise the hair on the back of my neck, and you get that feeling, and you just know, and then you talk differently. I make my wording differently. I kind of make sure that I'm in a position where I could defend myself if it was going to become physical, right? And and not be relaxed at that point. I talk with my hands, so my hands are up. Right? I'm going to blade my body a little bit, so I have one foot forward. That way, my balance is okay, right? And just give some different tones to see what's going on. I'm also going to really watch the person and watch what their mannerisms are. So if they're kind of like sweating and you can see their heart rate's racing, they're nervous, right? Which also tells you that they're also thinking something. Because normal people don't get nervous by just talking to somebody in a clinic about chiropractic or whatever they may be there for. A lot of people do massage from home as well.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
And again, private clinic, it's the same kind of idea. But watching for those predeterminers with somebody is super important. Like if like I said, if their heart rate's up, you're gonna be able to tell they're gonna be nervous. Their hands are gonna be touching their face or touching their arms. All that kind of stuff is pre-indicators that something's just a little bit off here, and now we need to change what's going on, right? And that would be the point where I'd be asking the person to leave, and figuring out an exit from that point. Do you have you had any other experience other than that?
With the clinic, no. I did have an experience when I was younger. I was around 12 years old. Um, and this was actually a really scary one for me. I was outside raking the leaves on my, parents' property, and I was home alone, and this guy came up to me, and he like rushed up to me and was like, "Oh my God, excuse me, can I please use your bathroom? I really need to go to the bathroom." And I'm like, I was just so like startled because of his energy and chaotic, and it was really interesting. So I was like, okay, sure. And I started like walking him into the house, and he's asking me questions like, "Hey, do you live with your roommates? Do you live alone?" And in my mind, nothing was really going off. I was just thinking, oh, this guy really has to go to the bathroom. He's rushing me to go to the bathroom. He really has to go. I'm going to help him out. And we get inside, and he's like, "Oh, where's the bathroom?" And I go, "Oh, it's just right there." He goes in the bathroom, shuts the door. I don't hear anything. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, "Oh no, what have I just done?" And that's when my intuition popped in, and I was like, "What are you doing?" I started to sweat. I'm like looking around, like, what do I do? And my intuition is just like, get out of the house. So
Good.
what I did, thank God I had my hockey stick literally by the front door, because I played hockey almost every day. So there it is. I grab my hockey stick, I step outside, and I'm waiting with the door half open, and I'm just like holding it like across me. And the guy's like, "I thought you were raking the leaves." And I was like, "Leave." And my heart's pounding. I'm like, holy fuck, what's gonna
Right.
happen? And he's just like, "What are you doing?" All this kind of stuff. And then I just keep creating space. And so then eventually he kind of comes out. But again, I didn't hear anything in the bathroom at all. But then he did a flush and just, pretend. And it's like
Right.
nothing. So then he leaves and scurries off the property. I follow him around the side because we have a corner lot, and I see that he's parked up the street. So and there's literally a Tim Hortons at the end of the street. So this guy literally parked up the street. So I thought he was, coming, just a random person walking on the street. And yeah, I was very lucky that nothing happened. And
Wow.
yeah, it was
Yeah, so good
really
on you
interesting.
for that intuition kicking in, because for sure that kept you in safe space and didn't let you stay in the house. Because that is very random and people don't normally do that.
Yeah.
So he probably saw you outside, either profiled you from before and saw you a few times, and then saw the opportunity, saw nobody was home,
Wow.
and then tried to do that. And you were super smart about that. And that leads to another thing too, is like, setting boundaries for people. So, if you're in your clinic or you're outside, you're doing whatever, if you have specific boundaries where you say not to do something and this person does it, then they're not listening to what your boundaries are. And that's also a really
Mm,
good flag,
mm,
right? Like an interesting story I read was where a lady was taking her groceries from her car to her house, and some guy stopped to help her, and she said no, she was fine. And then she continued to go, and he continued to follow her, and then she dropped the groceries, so he helped him pick her up, or helped her pick them up, and then made his way into the apartment with her as well. So he ignored every time she said no, but she let it go because in her mind she's like, "Oh, this is just a nice guy trying to help." In the end,
yeah.
it turned out she was raped.
Yeah.
It was a very bad thing that happened, but the boundaries were set ahead of time, and then she ignored those intuitions. And that's when things go bad really quick, right? And because once they get you in a confined space, then things usually go bad quickly, right? And if you're aware of what's going on and you listen to your body and your mind, you go, okay, this isn't right. Definitely follow what it says because it's probably right. Because you
Mm,
don't walk around everybody you meet and go, oh, this is off, right?
yeah.
It's very few people I can ever say that I've met that go, this guy's like, there's no fucking way this is right. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
right. I need to get away from the situation, right? And it's
Yeah.
more so for private clinics and things like that, where real estate agents, even where they're a lot of times they're in spaces where there's nobody else in the house, and those
Totally.
incidents do happen. I mean, they're not super often, but they do happen, and it's just something to be
Yeah.
aware of. And then the last thing I like to say is like too is that, I mean, not last thing, but you know maybe taking like a basic self-defense course to understand awareness and how to create space and something's happening, to get out of those situations, to keep it as non-violent as possible, but to make the space you need to get out, and then being able to ratchet it up if you need to, right? Because unfortunately, sometimes the more hard you go, the more the hard that they want to go. So you got to kind of work around that to create the space only and then get the hell out.
Totally.
Right. Because as we know, like as I've already said, that, I love the police and stuff, but they're never there when we need them. Right. You have to become your own protector. And I firmly believe that. And just know what your boundaries are too, right? Physical boundaries, not just the mental ones.
Totally. And one thing that when I look back on that at that age, I wasn't really prepared, but now I can see it. If someone's rushing me, it's like, why are they rushing me? And,
Right.
Bathroom, whatever, it's like, now I don't care. Like, I'm going to sit, pause, and really get into my body. Or intuition is like, which kind of boundary am I going to set? Am I going to say yes, no to whatever the request is? And now I have no problem saying no. But at the time, 12-year-old child, I'm like, oh, I'm rushed, this person it must be urgent, right? And I didn't think of it at that. I felt like an idiot afterwards, being like, what did I do? I just let a stranger into my house.
Yeah.
But
at the time you didn't know. It felt okay. But then you immediately knew that something was wrong. No, I think another thing too you could put in the clinic if you needed to, is because sometimes you have things set up nicely with desks and all those things. Those like fake sand, the sandboxes where you get the rake and stuff, potentially those there as well, because if you had to cause a distraction, getting sand and throwing it in somebody's face is always a good distraction, because pepper spray is illegal. So you can't use that.
Is it really?
Pepper spray, yeah.
So what would happen if someone came into my clinic and they started to attack me and then I sprayed them? Like, what would happen? Would I get in trouble?
You would get charged. Yeah, because it is an illegal substance in Canada to use unless you're using bear spray for bears. But on the flip side of that too, it'd probably be not good to use in that clinic setting, because the spray from the pepper spray itself would be everywhere in the air. You would also take it on and into your lungs. So there's a very good chance that you would be just as badly in a position as the person you sprayed in the eyes. So it's not, everybody forgets that there's a lot of after spray that goes with that. And it floats in the air because it's very, so it could go very much the wrong way. And if you got it into your lungs as well, you would be in the same position they would be in. So it I wouldn't call that one as safe as the sand would be much easier, just to create the distraction. If you need to.
Even hairspray.
Hairspray might be fine.
Yeah.
No, just even throwing something just to create that, you need to create a window of space to get away and distract, and that's it. That's your goal at that point, is just to get out of that room.
Right.
And then call whoever you need to, get next door to a neighbors or somewhere where you feel safe. Then they can give you your help from there.
That makes sense.
Because as far as like weapons go, I wouldn't have those things in the clinic. just for, it can be used against you, right? It can go either way. So you want to keep as much sharp objects and stuff like that out of those areas, so that it's very clean and very, very easy to access nothing, except for something that you might need to access.
Right. Well, funny enough, I had my hockey stuff stored, so I had my hocky stick in storage.
Oh, and that's perfectly fine. And then, as the way the law works and stuff, if your hockey sticks with your hockey bag, it's an item that's there. It's convenient for use, and it's not a weapon sitting there per se. It's just happened to be a weapon of convenience at that time. So that's okay, right? And so it's like having the baseball bat beside your bed, but it doesn't have the glove and ball beside it.
So that's actually like, you would get in trouble for that.
You could, because it would be viewed as a weapon.
And someone breaks into your house and you have, protection, knowing that there could be some crazy wackos coming in your house, and you get in trouble because you cracked them and, something serious happened with that. Is mind-blowing. Yes.
And, the one thing I actually saw one time was kind of cool is somebody that I knew, they had a baseball bat in their room. It was in the closet, but they had a sock on it. And I asked why. And the reasoning was, so if you swung at somebody and they grabbed the bat, they would pull it out because the sock would be soft. I'm thinking, that's pretty ingenious. I never would have thought of that.
Really smart.
So, yeah.
I'll put that on my bat by my bed.
So that's a little add-in you could do if you had the baseball bat, glove, and ball beside your bed. But weapons of convenience can be anywhere, and you can have them in the room, just to be there. And then just per se you ever needed one just to create that space. I would never say to use a weapon, but to get out of a situation if there's no other way. I mean, the idea is that you get to safety, right? There's no rules for self-defense. There's laws for sure, but there's no rules. But the law also states that you are allowed to protect yourself, and you can get yourself to safety with what you need to do. You can't you can't excessively beat somebody. So if they fall down, you don't continue to kick them, right? You just get out of the space and go from there. But I mean, you do fully have the right to protect yourself. And if you feel unsafe, you have the right to protect yourself as well before that happens.
Good to know.
You know, a lot of people don't realize that, but everybody's not sure that they can. It's like, no, 100% you can protect yourself, right? Yeah, and it changes again if you're protecting like a child or somebody in your family or somebody elderly that can't protect themselves, right? You have that right as well, right?
Oh, wow.
And again, it's only to get to safety. That's it. You can't continue on past that one point.
No bonuses.
No bonuses are allowed. You know, if they break in kind of thing, you don't have the right to throw them down a set of stairs. Right?
Yeah.
As much as you'll want to. But I mean, you know, home invasions do happen and they've happened in this area and they're happening more. You know, it's unfortunately part of society right now. And just got to be vigilant, you know, again, you know, having cameras set up, knowing your area really well, having things set up so that you're always at the most advantageous part of the room. Right? I mean, once they're, you know, on the chiropractic bed and stuff, you're at the advantage at that point because now they're laying down. But until that point, you know, not so much. I mean, you could talk on one side of the bed when they're on the other side. If you're still standing, it gives you space. Always gives you, you know, always put yourself between a barrier if possible.
Right.
Which should be doable in the room.
Yeah.
With the chiropractic bed, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah. Most situations, I could. Just running through the setup now. In the one-on-one consult room, it might be a bit more challenging because I'm, you know, face to face, you know, having a conversation with someone about their health and what they'd like to accomplish. And
I'm sure in that setting, it's a pretty safe setting.
Yeah. And by that time, we've kind of already screened them out, ruled them out. I mean, because we've already had a conversation of what they're looking for. We booked the appointment. They've come in the clinic. They're sitting there in the clinic. So you can, you know, gauge information about someone just while they're sitting, if they're fidgeting, if they're awkward, weird, if they're showing weird signs. So if something didn't feel right, then it's like, okay, team huddle, let's figure out how to get this person out or let's get out of here.
Yeah, and the easiest thing is going to be to always remove yourself from the situation first, if possible, as opposed to try to get them out of the situation if they don't want to leave. Just, you know, that's where you come up with, you know, have your escape plan that you've already made up, so you know how to get out, know where you're going to get to, have the idea of what's going to happen, and then know where you're going to go from there. Even having somebody that you could have on call if things were weird, when you have like almost like a safe word, and you know, or a safe phrase, and you call that person, and then they know right away that things are going in a bad direction, and then they either come to help or they call for help.
Yeah, I had that actually with my staff. It was like, hey, if I actually forget the word now, but when we were working together, it was like, okay, if something weird's going on, we need to, you know, switch to plan B. Here's the phrase I'm going to say. Here's what I'd like you to do. Here's the steps. Follow this.
Yeah. So perfect. No, that's great. So I think you have a really good handle on what you were doing in the clinic and stuff. And I think one thing I'd add too is if you ever had a client ahead of time that you weren't sure of, you know, you could always use the old Google check. Just type his name in or her name into the Google, call, and if something comes up, then you know right away that there's a problem. Because I mean, you know, everybody's name should come up in Google somehow. It just depends how it comes up.
Just released from prison.
Yeah, which could be totally fine, but
totally,
you know, it just tells you what's going on. So you know, Google can be our friend for a lot of things, and give us some good background. You know, even Facebook, Instagram. You know, just to check if something that were to concern you. I mean, it's there for us to use. Or they're good tools for certain things as well, not just social media.
Totally, yeah, definitely.
I'm just looking at my notes here. I don't see anything else. I think we've kind of gone through it all that I've got written down. You know, the big thing here is just, you know, go with your gut, your intuition, have the clinic set up properly so you know how you would escape if things are going bad, have some backup plans and escape plans. I like the idea of the security camera because no matter what, then people are getting recorded on the way into the building. and then that's just a reference point for you. I guess it probably wouldn't be a good idea to set cameras up in the room. Although with chiropractic, I don't know that would be a bad thing. I don't know how that works for.
Yeah, definitely not for the initial consult where they're, giving their private information, and you'd have to get consent for that. And yeah,
I mean, not even to record them like audio, just more so the record of the visual, just so that's on camera. I don't think there'd be anything wrong with that. I don't know how it works. If there's anything against it.
Yeah, that might create some challenges just with privacy and all that kind of stuff.
You would have to definitely disclose it. It wouldn't.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And whether or not people feel comfortable with that, another story. Yeah, I think if there was just someone sketch where I'd feel like I need a camera, I would just, I ended up firing that one patient and saying like, we're not a good match here. So, yeah, I would just probably refer out.
Yeah, and that's the best way to do it. I mean, we've had clients come in here too that we didn't figure would be a good fit, and I've definitely referred them to different clubs and places in town. And that's and sometimes they're completely happy with that. They're thinking, okay, great, I'm getting a referral somewhere where you think I should go, and that's fantastic. Like, okay, see you there. So but perfect. No, I think that kind of gets everything down that we wanted to talk about. I think that was super good. I think we can pause there if you feel that we've covered the questions that you had as well. Yeah,
that was great. That was very insightful. And I really recommend for those of you watching this, get yourself trained in self-defense, because you just don't know, and you just have more confidence in situations, whether it's in a clinic or you're traveling or just walking down the streets. I think it's so important that everyone does that, has some level of empowerment, both physically and mentally. It's essential. Yeah, I think so too. And we focus courses on, awareness, self-awareness, awareness of the things around us, and really push the create space thing. If you train with us longer, obviously we're going to give you a lot more skill sets. But the initial idea is just to understand your surroundings, be aware of them, and then if you're in a bad situation, how to get out of them safely, quickly, creating a window, and then getting the help that you need. So I'd like to thank you very much for today. And thank you. Perfect. I just